Okay, so 2022 Greenhouse and Garden Diary. This is just so I can look back at it and see what I planted, where I planted them, and what worked and what didn't work. The biggest breakthrough and success this year was the plastic boxes, which meant that seedlings actually worked. Even though I'd said I wasn't going to do any seedlings, I found that they did work with these boxes. They create their own little greenhouse spaces, and you can water them once, you don't need to water them again. You can stack them so they don't take up much space. So seedlings are on the menu again. So my seedling mini greenhouse boxes come from the shop where they're used for the loose sweets. So I'm getting prepared. And this year, one of the things I'm going to do is use this space that hasn't been used before, and I'm going to do a version of the Kratky hydroponic system. And the reason I decided to go ahead and give it a try is that I was looking at how to do it, and one of the problems was that people had a problem with evaluating the level of liquid in these tubs that they use and the big buckets. But I found these transparent buckets, and I thought, oh well, in that case I'll give it a try. So that's one less problem. I also got these really nice sturdy 10 centimeter, oh they 9 centimeter wide net pots, and now I'm just making some holes to put them in. So I'm making a big hole in the middle. I'm also going to make a little hole at the side so I can, for topping up, so that once this system is going, I don't need to open them again. In fact, turns out these lids, once they are really pushed down and sealed, they're really difficult to open again. So let's get some more holes drilled. It's the 4th of April. I set up this shelf here to keep my little greenhouses, and I couldn't resist it. I've actually planted, this is turnip, multi-sow turnip in these 3 boxes, and I planted a celtus in this one. Now, as you can see, it's snowing outside. We've still got, what, 30 centimetres of snow out there in the garden. It's about +2, but the nights are getting down to plus, I think last night was +7 or something like that, so this is a real test. But I've got to do something. The winter is grinding on and on and on this year, so our grow season is going to be even shorter than usual. So we're in zone 5B, if I haven't already mentioned that, and that means that we've got snow usually 6 months of the year. This year it's a bit more. So let's try this. I'll keep you posted on whether these do anything. I suspect they're not going to. But what is evident, you can see that there's moisture gathering up in here because there's evaporation from the moisture in the soil in these little black pots that I use, and the black pots are absorbing sunlight during the day. There's not a lot of it today. And then they seem to be retaining the heat. For instance, this one has got water in the bottom, and even though we were -7 last night, that water is not frozen. So you never know, maybe this is going to work. I'll keep you posted. 2022. It is April the 30th, and I'm starting the greenhouse, and I'm continuing this experiment. Now, the experiment with the boxes is going fantastic. They're doing really, really well. I've moved them now from the terrace or the porch out to the greenhouse. So effectively I've started the hardening off process without having to take things in and out every day. They're out here, it's a bit colder. We're still getting -2, maybe -3 degrees at night, so 3 degrees below freezing. But they're somewhat insulated, so the temperature changes are at least not as dramatic, not as fast, and they're all survived. I thought I was going to lose some of them, but nope, they're fine. The temperature in those boxes stays more stable. Of course it goes up and down, so they're hardening off, but it's not a dramatic change in temperature, so all the seedlings that I brought out here are still going strong. So that's working. It's working well. I'm surprised. But the greenhouse, I've had lots of ideas of how I'm going to do it this year. It's still not absolutely final what I'm going to do. But one thing that I am doing, or I'm not doing this year, is I'm not adding any fertilizer to the grow beds. Every year I've added chicken manure or rabbit manure, and I have always had lots and lots of leaf growth, lots of green stuff, but less fruit than I want, and I'm thinking that I'm actually over fertilizing. So all I've done is, along the bottom here, I added a little bit of coffee grounds that was saved up over the winter, and a little bit of wood ash from the fireplace, and nothing else. And for the boxes up here, I'm adding nothing, so we'll get some kind of comparison. We'll see. Now, what I decided to do down here on the bottom is I'm going to do tomatoes now, even though a couple of years ago I said I'm not doing tomatoes anymore because I wasn't getting many tomatoes, or the problem wasn't that I was not getting a lot of tomatoes. I was getting a lot of tomatoes, but the season here is very short, so they were all still green at the end of the year when I had to take them all off. But last year I made a couple of breakthroughs, and of the couple of tomato plants that I had out here, actually got a lot of fruit. So this year I am going to do, well, probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tomato plants here. But I've got wide beds, and because one of the breakthroughs I made last year was removing all the lower leaves on the tomatoes, it means that there's a lot of the soil here which is not getting used, which is not now covered by tomato leaves. So on the front of this bed I'm going to do a line of, I think, leeks, because some of the leeks that I did in these boxes, I did multi-sow leeks. I can pull them apart. I've got lots and lots of leeks. I've got summer leeks and winter leeks. So I put one line of leeks all the way down here. Leeks, as they grow, they don't stop an awful lot of light. So behind that, I'm thinking a line of carrots. The carrots, I'm going to thin them out, which is a mistake I've made every single time I've done carrots. I haven't thinned them out enough. This time I'm going to thin them out properly. But they don't grow terribly tall. The leaves on them don't grow terribly tall, so I can still plant the tomatoes behind them. So that's the plan for here. Leeks, carrots, tomatoes. Now these boxes that you see here are lettuce. Lettuce worked great last year. and I'm starting them now. I actually already planted lettuce seeds in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 boxes, like window boxes. So I'm going to get those going. Those I may well move outside once the weather warms up. We've actually still got snow on the ground outside in places, but it's melting fast. But this is late. This is late. The other thing you're seeing here is sugar snap peas. So these are the peas that you don't let them grow all the way. You eat them when they're before the peas are fully developed. These, in the end, will not go here. They're going to be moved somewhere else. I'm going to start them here because in the greenhouse we're a little bit insulated from the cold. We've got about a week of nights below zero still. These peas, I actually got them. They were on sale because they were last year's peas, and I did some tests here, and less than half of them actually germinate. So I've oversowed these. The ones that don't germinate go mouldy, start growing little furry little clusters. So, but while they're here, I can easily just pull those out and hopefully get a decent number of peas in there. So that's that bit figured out. Now I've got a problem because along this wall I wanted to have the tromboncino courgette that grew last year and that in the end of the year did really well. They're extremely vigorous growers, and I was growing them from boxes that were up on the shelf. And then, unfortunately, or fortunately, I planted probably 10 seeds, hoping for a couple of them to work, and they all worked. So I ended up planting some of the seedlings down here, and the ones that I planted down here grew right up into the roof and did really, really well and produced a lot of fruit, while the ones that I had in the boxes didn't do so good. So I'm thinking my whole concept of this idea that I have had for many years, which was to grow the climbing plants up high so that they get up into the rafters quickly. I'm thinking that's not such a good idea. I think the climbers, the strong climbers, they need a lot of soil, so they're better off being down here. So the plan was get tromboncinos growing in here. Unfortunately, I can't get them. The company that I bought them from in Britain won't ship them anymore internationally after Brexit, and so I don't have any seeds. Now I harvested seeds from the tromboncinos last year, and I've got several of these boxes are tromboncino seeds that I'm hoping are going to come up. None of them have. I'm wondering if they're actually a hybrid, if they're an F1 hybrid or something, which means the seeds are not going to grow. I should really have investigated that. But it looks like I may have to go without tromboncinos, which I'm really pissed off about. And what I need to do is find another vigorous climbing plant, maybe cucumber, which I'll put all the way down here. Let them grow right up and then hang the fruit down. That leaves me loads of boxes up here, which I don't know what I'm going to do with yet. One of the things I am going to do is at least one of these boxes will be chard. And the reason being that I love chard, and last year all my chard failed. So I decided very early on this year that one way or another, if I don't grow anything else, I'm going to have chard. So even though in previous years, especially last year, I decided I'm not doing seedlings anymore because most of them fail. This spring, or before spring actually, I decided, well, I'm going to try chard in every possible different configuration that I can. I'm going to try it early like doing seedlings. I'm going to try direct sowing. I'm going to try them in multiple places. I'm going to have some chard in the greenhouse. I'm going to have some chard in the back garden. I'm going to have some chard in the field, because I just refuse not to have chard this year. So that's why I originally got one of those plastic boxes and planted some seeds in there, some chard seeds, which allowed me to have it on the kitchen table. In previous years I'd built shelves on the kitchen table in front of the window to try and get the seedlings going as soon as possible, but it was always a hassle. It blocks the light, you have to water them all the time. This year I got one of these boxes and decided, well, let's just try that. Put it on the kitchen table, it doesn't take up room, and they sprouted very, very fast. They germinated really, really fast, and I realized I might be onto something here. And so I started stacking these boxes, one on top of the other. Didn't have to build shelves. And then when it turned out that we were going to have a late spring, I realized that I could, once they'd germinated, I would take off the excess water out of the boxes and move them onto our porch, which is not a heated area. The kitchen table obviously is a heated area, so they get their start on the kitchen table, they move into the porch, which is not as cold as like the greenhouse or outside, but it's something in between, and then I can move them out here. And to my mind, that means that I can completely forget about the whole hardening off process. They're already out here, they're acclimatizing. In about a week, when we've not got any minus, like freezing nights, I can just take the lids off. They can be in here for another few days. They're going to get the temperature fluctuation throughout the day. They're going to get cold at night, but not as cold as they would be otherwise. And then I can start planting them. I'm sold on this plastic box method. It's stackable. It's using so much less space, and I have not had to water any of these seedlings once after putting them in the boxes. In fact, the only thing I have done is, once they've sprouted and they're getting to a decent size, I should take the excess water that I've poured into the bottom boxes out, because it's going to get too wet. So huge savings in terms of effort. Okay, so that's got us lined up for this year. I'm also going to be doing this hydroponics trial. I'm expecting it to fail, I'll be honest, because with hydroponics you're meant to get all the plant nutrients balanced and pHs and stuff, and to be honest I just can't be bothered with that kind of rubbish. So I've got multiple bins or buckets. I'm going to try multiple plants. I'm going to try a couple with just water, like rainwater. I'm going to try a couple with water where I've added just a tiny little touch of NPK, normal fertilizer. I've also got a big 25-litre bucket outside, which has got, when I've been clearing the outside outside growing areas of all the old leaves and stuff, I've thrown them in that bucket. I'm going to top that with water and let them is it anaerobically decompose? Anyway, I'm going to just draw the water off that and do a couple of buckets with that. I'm wondering if we've actually got an outside toilet where there is a little tube comes out that you collect liquid that comes from the decomposing matter in the composting toilet. I'm thinking of maybe using this thing here, put a touch of that in there, top it up with water, do a couple of these buckets of that. Let's try. We'll see. This is going to be a nice experiment. I don't know what plants I'm going to put in there. I started one, which is a calabrese, and it's still alive at least, even though it's been there for over a week and we've been -5 at night. But I would like to do plants like a curly cabbage, which is like a kale. I would like to do Chinese lettuce. I have to see what seedlings are working here, and for every one that I plant somewhere else, I'll plant one in there, so we've got some, we can like compare. Chard, have to put one chard in there definitely, because I'm not going to live another year without chard. Okay, well, 2022, the world's turned to shit, but I'm still going to be here trying to make food. So it's the 22nd of June now, and an update on the hydroponics experiment. I've got some fairly clear results already. So I got the ordinary NPK fertilizer from the local farmer, and some of these buckets have got that in. I also got this flour nutrient blend, and I got this it's a nutrient blend that you add to the water that you're watering your vegetables with. And so I've got various things in various tubs. One thing I can say for absolute sure is that this flour nutrition what's the word? Nutrients thing, that's these two tubs, and they're an absolute zero. I've got chard in here, in here, in here, spinach in here. This one I put 1 teaspoon of the NPK fertilizer in, and it's doing nicely. It's looking a little bit limp today. It's really hot. It's 36 degrees Celsius in the greenhouse today. This one is also 1 teaspoon of NPK. Spinach, it's doing good. This is 2 teaspoons of NPK, and each of these is 10 litres, by the way, of water. This one's 3 times NPK, and it's kind of difficult to tell which of these is doing best. Now these I've just planted, so this one I used this watering water nutrients. That's all that's in there, and it's the recommended dosage on here for 10 litres, which is 3.5 scoops. Then this one I put 2 scoops of that plus 1 teaspoon of NPK. I've got pak choi in here. This one's tatsoi. This one is calabrese, where I've put 1 scoop of that stuff and 2 teaspoons of NPK. And the last one here, which has turned a funny colour for some reason. I haven't written anything on there. I think that was just water. I need to put something in that. Anyway, algae. All of these, the surface of the water has got a really good layer of algae on, and at first I thought, oh no, I've done something wrong. These are all, the basis of all of these is rainwater. So there's obviously some microbiome, no, you know what I mean, bacteria and stuff. And all of these except one have formed a really good layer of algae. Like I said, I thought it was a problem, and then I realised that algae is nutrient rich, so is it really a problem? And these plants certainly don't seem to be worried about it. So I guess I'm okay with that. Interestingly, this one, where there's no nutrients added, it's just water, there's no algae on that. And then this one, which is just water and the flower stuff, no algae on that. But this is how experiments go. This one, which is also only the flower stuff, that one has got algae on. So yeah, I don't know what you're supposed to deduce from that. Anyway, I'm happy that that's a good lineup for this year to experiment with the nutrients. And I really didn't want to mess around too much with this stuff, but I decided that what I would do is get a pH tester, which I just dropped on the floor. So I've got that, and then I also got myself, these are meant for hydroponic systems. There's one for putting the pH down, one for putting the pH up. So I'm going to check the pHs today. Checked online, and all of these need a pH of around 6 to 6.5, so slightly acidic, except for this one, which I firstly have to put some nutrients in, but it's beans, so it needs a slightly more alkaline, so slightly higher, about 7. So I'm going to start testing these, see what the pH is, and add a half a milliliter of either one of those, depending on whether I need to go up and down to get to the 6.5, and then we'll see if there's any improvement. So as I said, 22nd of June, so after this, let's see what happens. Tomatoes starts off with knowing your area, and the only reason I know this is because I've tried to grow tomatoes so many times, failed so many times, started getting a little bit of success and realizing what the grow season is like. And these tomatoes, if I allowed them to grow, they'd grow right up into the roof. There'd be tons and tons of greenery, and I'd end up with a half bucket of tomatoes that would be green at the end of the season. that's how I did it at the beginning, because I didn't know better. But now I've realized what my grow season is, what I need to do. I've decided on the height. It's about here, so it's today for this tomato plant. I have to take away the growing head on this tomato. I'm going to be quite mean about this, take quite a bit off. So I've stopped that growing height-wise. Now it's going to concentrate on leaves and tomatoes. I'm going to control the amount of leaves. Obviously it needs a lot of leaves, but I'm going to now take some more leaves away from the bottom and let this thing concentrate on fruiting. Because the way the season works here, if I stop it at this point, it's going to produce lots of fruit and they're going to have time to ripen. So you need to know your area. There's no way around that. That's a reason that you can't just suddenly start growing and think you're going to get loads of food. You need to know your area, and that means trial and error a bit. Or talk to people locally, find out. So I've just noticed there's some more flowers come out on this one today, so I'm going to go get the electric toothbrush and buzz those. This one I think has got another 2 days to go, 2 or 3 days, and then I'll be topping that off as well. This last tomato, which I thought was dead, it just didn't grow for a long time, has suddenly shot up, so that one's going to work as well. So let's see what kind of crop we get this year from the tomatoes. So with these two, a couple of changes. Firstly, I'm using well water, not rainwater. We'll see that how that affects the algae bloom. I decided to go with the gravel in these. This is 50% the fetid swamp water, so that's like the water that was in the barrel that I have outside, which has been there for about 4 months, with rotting vegetation and stuff in it. This is 50-50, that and well water. This is 25% the swamp water, pond water, and 75% well water. I planted in each of these 2 Chinese lettuce, and I'm just going to check the pH on these. This one, oh wow, 9.5. Oh, okay, it's going down. Okay, it's bottoming out at 7.5. 7.5, and I want it down to 5.5. So I need pH down. That's this one. It's down to 6. So that water from the barrel is obviously very alkaline. Okay, 5.6. Well, I'm happy with that. I would have expected that to be higher. It's 6.6, and this is a stronger concentration of that stuff. I should check what the pH of my well water is. But anyway, still needs to come down a bit. .5. Okay, I'm happy with that one. So 9th of July, Chinese lettuce test in fetid swamp water and well water. and pH 5.5. This was pH 5.6. We've got clear winners and clear losers. It's not going the way I wanted it to go, but we're learning stuff. It's fair to say that the buckets that I treated with ordinary NPK fertilizer are doing well. It's also fair to say that the 2 buckets that I treated with, it's like a potted plant nutrient solution, no good at all, so that's rubbish. And the 3 out of the 4 that I treated with this nutrient mix that you add to the water that you use for watering for potted plants and vegetables, that's also not worked. 3 out of 4 of them have just done nothing. And the last one, the 4th one, which is still alive, it's doing okay, but it's nothing special. So get rid of that as well. So the ones that are working I'm going to leave to keep going. And the way they're working, the water has now dropped down to below the level of the net basket, but the roots are going down. Not as strongly as I'd hoped, but they seem good. So they're still getting water. One concern I have is because of the algae in here, as you can see, the algae is kind of coating those hanging roots. And I'm worried that that's meaning that, because those are meant to be air roots, that they're not going to be getting much air. So I'm wondering, should I actually wash those off? That's the job for today. I'll get going with that. It's the 23rd of July, so I'm going to do a little update on the greenhouse. So it's been a while, so let's see how this is going this year, so I can compare it to the videos from the other years. Starting at this side, paprika had 1 flower on, but it died. It's growing up nice and tall. We've got the little purple paprika growing there, which is not doing as well as these purple paprika plants, which are getting quite tall. No flowers on them yet, but hopeful. In between, we've got that really nice looking Chinese lettuce coming. Never grown those before. Quite pleased with that. Celery is doing great, and that's a shame because turns out I don't really like celery. We just threw one that we got from the shop into the compost because nobody ate it, so I shouldn't really have planted them. Chard up here is doing great. Up here we've got kale, and okay, it's growing, but not very impressive. Not an awful lot of leaves on them. This is a strange one. This is the broccoli, which just seems to want to grow up and up and up and up and not do anything else. But we'll let it go up there and see what happens. Some spinach in there, cherry tomato, not flowering yet. The basil's great, the Thai basil behind there is great. This back wall is all cucumber plants, and they are getting quite nice and tall. And hopefully, as in previous years, they're going to grow right up over the top, and we're going to have cucumbers hanging down. At the moment, all we've got is male flowers on there. Down in the corner, we actually do have a yellow courgette coming, and we have a green courgette coming just there. I've just pollinated that today. Here we've got the small cucumbers, the gherkin type cucumbers, and those, we've got lots of those coming on here. And I don't actually know the variety of these because just bought them and it was just like gherkin cucumber. didn't have the variety, but there has been not a single male flower, but they are still working. So I'm wondering if this is some carpathogenic, or what do you call it, where there's only female flowers. We've got down there, we have parsley root, which is doing all right, but the ones on the field are doing much better. So that's not best in the greenhouse. It's best to put those outside. More chard. You can never have too much chard. Down here, right, we've got these tomatoes, but I tried to make use of the space down low because I've got this. What I do with tomatoes, as you can see with this one, is I always take a lot of the bottom leaves off once the plant gets tall. And I was figuring, well, that means I'm going to have space down low. Actually, I'll take that leaf off as well. So I tried to make use of that space by planting other stuff in there. We've got tatsoi. I think I might even be along the chard back there. And then a line of carrots, and then leeks at the front. And I've obviously put too much in. The carrots, I'm going to let them grow a bit more before I thin them out, but I'm not expecting anything wonderful from the carrots. There's too much happening here. Leeks will be good because those are going to stay in when all the tomatoes and everything else is out, so I'm okay with those. But I think I've tried to cram too much in here. But onto tomatoes, it seems like this vibration method that I'm using is working because we're getting a lot of tomatoes starting. A high proportion of all the flowers are actually turning into tomatoes. So that appears to be working. That one tomato plant which I basically had given up on, this one, which just was not growing, suddenly shot up, so that's looking good. Now, I decided that I would top all these tomato plants once they got to about this level. So I took the growing heads off. They're still desperately trying to grow, and in a way I'd like to let them, but it makes watering the plants behind there more difficult. And the whole idea is I'm meant to be experimenting, so I'm actually going to be really mean and stick to my guns here. I'm going to take them off. Stop all height growth and force these things to concentrate on growing fruit. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, and then at least I've learned something. So this one, for example, is too high, so let's be mean about it. I'm going to take that off and that off. That's as high as I'm letting that one go. Let's see what happens. Now also, obviously, one of the first things anyone learns when they're doing tomatoes is you're meant to get rid of these. Here they call them, translated, robber, like thief branches. And you're always meant to take them off. I'm wondering, because I'm topping these, cutting them off really quite cruelly, maybe I'll let a few of them grow in case they actually become fruit bearing. I don't know, but we'll see. Worth a try. Now the real news is the hydroponics, which is an experiment this year, and the experiment is working in that I'm getting some answers to the questions I've got. I mean, the chard is doing good, so it's actually making food as well, this system. But what's more important is that I've had some problems and I've found solutions to the problems. What happened with this chard, for some reason the water level on these is dropping at vastly different rates. And the idea with the Kratky system is you don't keep topping it up. you let it go down so that some of the roots are actually suspended in air below the pot, and those are air roots, and they take in the air, and the bottom roots take in the liquid, the water. But because I've got algae in these tubs, and I've allowed the algae to just stay in there, in 5 of them, because algae is nutrient dense, so I thought, well, why not? What happened was that this one started to die as soon as the level dropped much below the pot. And so I had a hunch, I took it out and I cleaned the algae off of the roots directly below that little area there, like the 2 or 3 centimeters that was above the water. So those should be air roots, but they were covered in algae. So I washed those roots off, and the plant perked up, started growing again. So what then happened was the same thing happened with this spinach. And yesterday, this was wilted right over. All the leaves were starting to droop. So I took it out and washed that little area of roots just below the pot and above the water, washed the algae off of them, did nothing else, and put it back in, and it's perked straight back up. So that worked. One thing that I'm really happy about this year, I have been for 4 years trying to get good King Henry to grow. I bought multiple packs of seeds for multiple years. I've tried them in trays like this, so I'd have maybe 25 seeds in 25 pots. I also put some into my little mini greenhouse system, the plastic boxes, this spring. And finally, after 4 years of trying, I've got one to grow. Now, the problem I've got, of course, is that everybody says good King Henry does not like being transplanted, but I have no option. I'm going to transplant that into the back garden, the perennial garden. But I'm actually just wondering, just came to mind just now, I wonder what would happen if I actually took that into the house over the winter and let it grow, get it really established. Maybe try putting it in a bigger pot so that it's really strong when I do transplant it. I wonder how that would work. Okay, I have to think about that. But that's where we are on the 23rd of July. We've got a broccoli growing there in the hydroponic stuff, and that one I had the nutrient blend that you're meant to add to the water in the watering can when you water the garden, and the directions said 3 scoops of that stuff for 10 litres. So that's what I actually did in this pot. I had 3 scoops in there, 2 scoops in there, 1 scoop in there. Both of these died. I've now refilled them with a new experiment, but that one seems to be working. So having that stuff in there at least doesn't kill the plant. I'm not saying, we don't know if it's actually helping the plant at all, but that looks like it could be quite a nice broccoli plant. It's growing as it should, unlike that monstrously tall one over there. So interesting times we're living in. Okay, the back garden, what will be eventually the perennial garden, and 23rd of July, the stuff in the old rabbit cage, which is for keeping the rabbits out, is we've got some chards growing, but I wasn't expecting much out of this area. This area has only been mulched for a year, as opposed to that bed, which is 2 years. The back bench is 3 years. We've got a couple of, what is it in English? It's not melons, it's the other one. Pumpkins, which actually seem okay. They're not as big at this time of year as I would hope, but might have something. We've got onions growing over there, but the ones in the field are doing better. So again, learnt that this is not the best place for onions. Better to put them in the field. These are looking great. These are the artichokes, looking really nice and healthy, but they were looking like this last year as well, and they didn't come up again in the spring. I ended up planting new ones, so I'm wondering if this just is not the right climate, if the tubers just do not survive the long cold winter. But trying it again, and I think what I might do, along with the asparagus bed which is next to it, is at the end of the season this year, when everything dies down, I will mulch on top of this whole area with a like 20-30 centimeter layer of straw to kind of protect them over the winter, and we'll see if they come up again in the spring. These are parsley root here, just a few, which was just a test, and they look like they're doing okay, but I think that the ones in the field are doing better. The asparagus bed, really hopeful that they come up again next year and we actually get some asparagus. That will be the year 3, so that's the time when you should be able to actually start using them. Back here we've got the 2 kinds of chives, which not harvesting anything on them because they've only been planted this year, want them to establish. We've got the ostrich ferns, there's 5 of them actually. So again, let's see what happens if they come up next year. I'm hoping that these are going to start to spread all around here. We've got the aronia bush, chokeberry, which I transplanted, and there's some new shoots on there, and the leaves they died down a bit, but they're perking back up, so it looks like that will work. That's the back garden apart from the swimming pool, which obviously is not a swimming pool. What we've got in here is the brassicas. We've got red cabbage. This is the first year I've got anything like this to actually grow. Any brassicas, in fact. That one's fallen over. But in here we've got brokkolis. Like there, that broccoli straight ahead has actually got broccoli on it, which I'm really excited about. It's pathetic, isn't it? But yeah, so we're actually growing broccoli for the first time ever. And then this kale, and you compare that to the kale that's in the greenhouse, this is just fantastic. I'm going to start harvesting that. There we go. That one, really nice. Anyway, so finally success with brassicas. And then we've got winter leeks over there. We'll see what happens to those. Okay, signing off. Right, August 20th. We've got one paprika starting there. The other paprika plants are looking really nice, but no flowers on them yet. Tomatoes are looking great. The conversion rate from flowers to actual tomatoes on the first 3 of these tomato plants is about 100%. I have to pick those ones today. and those ones in there. We're getting lots and lots of tomatoes on those. The last one has not had many flowers on. There's one flower coming in there, and we've got a couple of tomatoes, but that's it. So I have to check what the variety was on that one. Maybe it's a late developer. All along the back there, the celery is looking good, the chard is looking good. We've been eating that. We've been eating the kale. That ridiculous broccoli is just shot up into the roof. It's about nearly 1.5 meters tall, but no actual broccoli. These gherkin type cucumbers, we've harvested loads of those, and there are loads coming. It's now growing way over along the roof, and here we've got more coming. Cherry tomatoes over here, lovely, loads of those. Again, from flower to tomatoes, I'm pretty much getting all of them, 100%. We've been eating spinach, using loads of the basil. Let's see, chard down there, harvested some of that the other day. This is a failure. That's the parsley root, and well, I mean, they're doing okay, but the ones in the field are much better, so I have to make a note to self. The parsley root works better outside, not in the greenhouse. Now, a couple of changes coming. There's 3 courgette plants. All 3 of them have done the same thing. Loads of male flowers. Every now and again a female flower. It flowers, I pollinate them, they just go mouldy and rotten, and these things are now spreading out across the floor. So we got nothing off of these this year so far, and I don't think there's going to be. I think I'm going to pull them out because they're just getting in the way there. The cucumbers are way up there, coming way over here, halfway down the greenhouse now, and the cucumbers have finally started actually coming. There's a little one coming here. I spotted another one there. It's looking a bit yellow. I'm not sure if that one's going to work, but we've got a nice one in here which I'll probably pick soon, because I'm not going to make the same mistake I've made in the past of letting them get too big and developing the seeds and then the plant gives up. There is that little strawberry plant in there, which has now just started getting some strawberries on it. Now, down here we have the hydroponics broccoli plant, which was looking great, but we've had a butterfly in here. It's laid hundreds of eggs. They're hatching, and this is an ex-broccoli plant. I'm going to take it out and put it in the compost, get rid of those. We've got the same thing has happened with the Chinese lettuce. Loads of eggs in there, and the caterpillars are eating it, so I'll throw that out again. That's a great shame. I was interested to see what was going to happen with that one. Okay, anyway, that's the greenhouse on the 20th of August. Really having trouble keeping up with snapping the tops off of these. Like this one. I'll take it back down. And this one, I'll take that off. Same over here. Okay, but anyway. Midway through September update. We got some peppers coming up there. There's only 2. These other pepper plants are flowering, however, so still hoping for something there. The tomatoes, I have now a reasonable good job of keeping them at level. We had a lot of fruit. I've just been, I must admit, using them whenever I come to water the greenhouse. I just pick off a couple of red tomatoes and eat them. There's been loads, and what I'm doing is I'm monitoring where the fruit are and trying to take away the leaves that are covering them so that they get direct sunlight, so they ripen a bit faster. There's some down here that I have to still do. I think I'll take that whole. So just letting as much light as possible in on those tomatoes so that they ripen. But it's been a good tomato crop this year. I don't know how many tomatoes we've had, maybe close to 100 or so. This last plant, not very impressive. It was meant to be chocolate tomato. We've only got 2 on the whole plant. Oh no, sorry, 4. Take some leaves away from there. Maybe this one's not doing anything, it's just going to shade that. So that's the tomatoes for this year. Still got the celery in there, which looking like they're working well, and I'm going to have to eat them even though I don't like celery. We've been picking chard in there. Kale, you can see most of it we've harvested. There's still 1 plant there. Not great. The back garden kale is much better, but gonna have to harvest that soon. Put more chard down there. And okay, these small gherkin cucumbers, you can see some of this is not looking good, and it's the same thing with the cucumbers. We had that one night where we dipped well below 0. We're back up now. I mean, nights are 5 or 6 degrees, but that one night it killed all the leaves of the pumpkins in the field, and it also really hit these cucumber plants badly. But I'm monitoring. The cucumbers are still firm. They still seem to be growing a bit, so I'm expecting at some point quite soon I'll just have to harvest them all. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, little one up there, 5. I think there's a couple more hidden somewhere, 1 down there. I have to harvest them. Now we've got this one courgette plant, climbing courgette, which I don't know what it is, but I'm holding out a hope that it's a trombongino. I harvested seeds from the trombongino last year, and I tried growing them, but I remember that they didn't grow. I'm wondering if it's maybe an F1 hybrid or something. Anyway, this plant is growing way over here, and now there is actually that female flower which is now ready for pollination. So I'm going to pollinate that today, and we'll see what we're actually going to get there, if we get anything. Everything in here is all about timing and when the winter's going to get cold. There's more cherry tomatoes up there. That's producing a lot of fruit, but they're not ripening. This whole year, the theme has been we had a really late start. There's basil. We're going to have to harvest that and dry those out now. Really late starts. We've had an even shorter than normal growing season. We've got some tomato, some strawberries there. If that one's, if I can have that one. Yeah. Oh, that's good. So yeah, even shorter growing season than normal. Didn't have to harvest these. So overall, although what we planted has worked, it's not been a good year. Just way too short growing season. The hydroponics, I made some progress early in the year with that, but overall not great. But now I've learned a bit, and next year I'm hoping to progress with that. There's 2 chard plants there which are going to seed, which I'm going to hopefully be able to harvest seeds from. We did eat some spinach from there and some chard from back there, so I mean we got something out of it, but not a lot. But if I can get those seeds, then move on next year with this experiment. So 2022, it's midway through October, so coming to the end of the season. This will be the last greenhouse update. The whole year's theme is that late start that we got in the spring, so everything's been behind. We've made some progress. It's the first year I've managed to grow bell peppers. Tomato harvest has been really good. I guess I'd say 100 tomatoes or so. Chard we've been harvesting, kale we've been harvesting. Harvested the basil, that's drying in the house. We've got more tomatoes still ripening. Still a lot of green ones. The hydroponics didn't produce a huge amount of food, but I've learnt some stuff, which is the aim. So I'll continue with that next year. We had loads of cucumbers. There's actually still a couple on here, but I think, well, that one's still good. I'm gonna today pull out these cucumber plants. I'm actually going to clear this whole side of the greenhouse, take everything out, because we've got a load of firewood coming and the wood shed's full, so I'm going to stack it in here. Use that first, so it'll be clear by the spring. We had loads of the little gherkin cucumbers. Pickled a whole load of those, so that's good. This interesting broccoli just carried on growing all the way to the ceiling. It's right up in the roof. Never made any broccoli. So again, learned something. If we get one that shoots up like that, then just get rid of it. It's not going to do anything. I've got chard seeds there to harvest today before I take away all these buckets and things. But yeah, that's about it for this year. Once the rest of I'll pull the red tomatoes off today. I'll leave them for a while because we're actually still quite warm, middle of October. I mean, normally we might have snow on the ground by now, but very strange weather. It can be like 8 degrees plus at night at the moment. And then every now and again, once a week, we get one night below 0. Anyway, I'll leave them, see what they do. And when I pull them up, I'm leaving the leeks there, which are winter leeks. They're not looking great, but I'll let them keep growing. So, learnt some stuff. But that's effectively, apart from the tomatoes, a couple of bell peppers, the rest of the chard and some mangold chard, which I'll harvest now. That's the end of the season. I have to start making a plan for next year based on what I've learnt. So I'll look through all these videos and make a plan. See you next year. It's the 26th of November, so we've got snow. I'm just out here harvesting kale, and it's still good, still really perfect. No problems at all. I think I'll harvest those little red cabbages. They didn't do very much, but there's something there. I'll make some sauerkraut. The green cabbages, maybe I'll harvest one of those. The one on the left is not great. The one on the right has actually got a nice, quite a decent size and quite firm heart on it. And maybe I'll should I leave it and see how long it lasts? Maybe it would make more sense to actually harvest the good one. Leave the smaller one. It's quite soft. Leave that one and see how long that one lasts. Just so I know for next year. So, it is the 31st of December 2022. It's, about 5 o'clock in the evening, so New Year starts at midnight tonight, and this will be the last check of the year. I'm still harvesting kale. Now, the temperature here has been down to minus 17 degrees Celsius, but it's had a couple of days above zero, then it goes below zero, about 6 degrees, then back down. We had minus 10 for a few days. Now it's back up at plus 1 or 2 above zero, but the kale is still fine, which is amazing. I'm going to check the cabbage. If I can find it. So, cabbage is still good. That's amazing. I wonder now now I've taken the snow off, so the snow is insulating it. It's not frozen or anything. I wonder if now it's going to die because I've exposed it. There are also some leeks somewhere over there under the snow. I'll go see if those are still alive. So that leek looks good. I'm going to cover it back up with snow, give it some insulation, and see if it grows next year. That would be amazing. Happy New Year.